Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Sperling. Thank you so much for joining us today as we shine a spotlight on shelters at UMOM New Day Centers. UMOM is a community provider of shelter, supportive services, and affordable housing that builds programs around a simple formula: jobs plus housing equals ending homelessness. Now, they work hand in hand with every person they serve to solve that formula alongside them. From emergency shelter to affordable housing, UMOM offers a full slate of vital services rooted in a foundation of trust and proactive support. UMOM is celebrating 60 years of service in 2024, and they aren't just celebrating 60 years of service, they are charging forth to ensure they serve our community at the highest possible level. Now, today we'll dive into the importance of shelter programming in the homeless service space and dig into UMOM's unique holistic approach to addressing and ending family homelessness. So for today's panel of experts, we have Jackson Fonder. He is the Chief Executive Officer at UMOM. Monique Lopez, she's the Chief Operating Officer at UMOM. Scott Hall is with us today. He's the Deputy Director for the Office of Homeless Solutions for the City of Phoenix. And Mila Valley, she is the Chief Program Officer over at UMOM. So with that introduction, let's get started with today's panel.
Eric, thanks so much for that introduction. Scott, Mila, good to have you on the program. Okay. Scott, City of Phoenix and UMOM, we've been together for decades.
Yes, we have.
Good to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Mila, I'm going to start with you. You've been doing this work a long time, over 25 years. You've seen a lot of types of shelters. Can you give us a little bit of insight to the type of shelter program that we have at UMOM?
Yeah, one of the things I love about UMOM is how we help the families achieve their ultimate goal, which is housing, right? And what UMOM does differently is that UMOM provides their own space for each family, no matter the size of family or the component of the family, multi-generationals. And we make sure that each family feels safe. They have their privacy. We also make sure that we have the opportunity to wrap services around them, where we provide the meals, clothing that they need. A family can stay up to about 120 days, but our average length of stay is about 50 to 80 days, and really supporting the families and those needs. I think our shelter, above all, really wants a family to succeed, and providing that safety, that room that they have to be able to have that privacy is important.
Scott, can you talk a little bit about the wider community need for shelter and sort of where you see UMOM uniquely positioned there?
Absolutely. Shelter is a vital resource needed to end someone's homelessness. Shelter in of itself doesn't end homelessness. It is just really a stabilization phase. And when you have the right provider and the right resources with it, that absolutely puts someone on the path to resolving their homelessness and the issues that might have caused their homelessness. UMOM has been a vital partner in the City of Phoenix for a long time, and they offer an array of services to people. And anytime the city has asked for help, and specifically we had an effort down around the Human Services campus where there was a large encampment, and we had a call to action, and UMOM stepped right up and was out there with us every single day of that, trying to get people in, explaining their program to people so that they understood where they were coming to. And it was tremendously successful in working with you all and getting people in, and that was part of the success we had in that effort.
Thank you. Jackson, do you want to add any color around our participation in those efforts and what it meant to UMOM?
Well, you're surprising me with that question, and that question was not on the list that we talked about earlier. But no, you know what? That effort was done under the leadership of the City of Phoenix, and we were thrilled to be a part of the solution. I think sometimes we get really busy in our day-to-day work, and when the community needed us the most, we appreciated you asking us for help. And we were absolutely proud to send our folks down there, work alongside of the city and a lot of other providers. And we saw a lot of families and a lot of singles being housed pretty quickly.
I want to add, though, I think the relationship that was built last year was incredible. I think how my staff now works with your staff works just perfectly. Anytime you guys have a family, you call, Amy picks up the phone and gets them in right away. And that partnership is what we need in our community. And so I'm grateful to be able to sit here with you and have this conversation of the importance of shelter.
Thank you. And I'd like to point out too, in that, it amplified what we already knew, is that working together is the most effective way of working with individuals. And that was a prime example with different partners, including the Keys to Change campus, St. Vincent de Paul, Community Bridges, A New Leaf, Circle the City, and I'm missing people in that, and I could go on, but that kind of collective effort really works serving individuals to get them into the right resource that's unique to their needs.
Absolutely.
Okay, Mila, I want to dive a little bit deeper into shelter programming. So at UMOM, we believe that homelessness should be rare, brief, and non-recurring. Can you talk a little bit about UMOM's model and how we incorporate services into our shelter programming and why that's special?
Absolutely. So one of the things, like I said, UMOM is just embeds the fact that families can be successful in on all their journey, right? When the family comes into UMOM, they have a case manager, and that case manager walks beside that family in their journey to end their homelessness. It's their resources, it's their want. It's not what we want, it's what the family wants. So we have that opportunity to have a workforce development place where we can take the families and say, let's look at your resume. Let's get your job readiness. What is the barrier for employment? And be able to take that adult in there and have them have that resource is incredible. We also have Boys and Girls Club there. We have Phoenix Children's Hospital there. A lot of our families and individuals that come in have not had their mental or physical health taken care of. And so to be able to provide those resources gives them a peace of mind that I can breathe for a minute and I can take care of the rest of the things I need to take care of. My children are taken care of. And that is important for us because we know that families have experienced trauma. And to be able to address those traumas and to provide those resources, not only what we provide on site, which is important, but also help them connect them to resources out in the community is also important because when they leave, they have that wraparound service.
Right. I think that you brought up something earlier that was special with the length of stay at UMOM being anywhere from 60 to 90 days, which is a relatively quick stay, and highlighting all of these sort of wraparound and supportive services being co-located in our shelter. We want to remove as many barriers as possible. We want to make sure that during your stay, you can easily get food, you can easily get employment services, you can easily get other things with your mental health taken care of so that you can expedite your stay in shelter. And so that's so important that you brought that up. Jackson, I know that we talk a little bit about, the inflow of folks experiencing homelessness. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the numbers are up. The numbers are up across the board, whether it's the city of Phoenix or the region as a whole or nationally. This topic of homelessness, it's a hot topic, and that's because it's up across the board. And there's a lot of work being done, including right here in the city of Phoenix. Scott, can you talk to us about some of the short-term and long-term initiatives you're thinking about to address homelessness or even the shortage of housing, affordable housing?
Yeah, and I see that on two levels, right? There's the short and long term for the individual, then there's the short and long term for the system. The short and long term for the individual is, the short term is shelter, right? That is that stabilization phase where we truly assess a person's need. The long term for that person always ends in housing. No matter what you go through, if you go through treatment, if you go through workforce, if you go through even possibly incarceration because of criminal activity, whatever it might possibly be, it always ends in housing. And that is a needed resource. So getting people on that path and creating all the trajectory they need for that while we also work on that housing on the back end is vital to what we're doing. The system used to fall into kind of throwing all their eggs in one basket. You could see through the years of when things would get defunded and the money would go to different pockets. You could see when transitional housing went away. You could see when shelter funding kind of decreased. You could see when, everybody got focused on housing first. The answer is all those resources are needed, and they're all effective when operated correctly. So that's what we've been working on, is trying to lift all of those resources. And what we're seeing is a lot of success. And just because we see an increase in homelessness doesn't mean these resources aren't effective. New people are coming into the system. It isn't that we're not solving the issues for the individual we're working with. The volume is just increasing. We have, the city's one of the largest growing cities in the country. We have a housing crisis. We have, inflation. All those things add to the issue. But when you look at the system, you need to work on all the things that work in all those parts of the system when working with the right partners works.
Yeah, there really isn't a silver bullet to this, is there? It's sort of like a gigantic puzzle with a lot of different pieces.
And you bring up a great point in that is when we take this time to work with somebody, there's a lot of unpacking. And what people really need to understand too is when someone comes into UMOM or one of the other providers, that's trust. And that trust has to be earned. People don't just blindly give you that trust. And a lot of people might think, well, here's a place where you go, just go. It's not quite that easy. And UMOM does a great job of building relationships with people and getting them to not only have to rehash their traumas but also maybe look at some things they weren't looking at before and help them overcome those things. So building that trust with individuals, getting them into the right resource, and then not only getting that trust on the front end, but maintaining that through the process.
I think what you said is really important, because kind of when I said like the case managers walk hand in hand with the participant, we are the passenger in their journey. We will give them the resources that they need, but ultimately it's their success and their housing. We're just going alongside with them. So yeah.
Yeah, because it's not ours to solve.
No, it's not.
Right? It's
Right.
one of the great lessons you learn working at UMOM. You're a partner.
You're a partner.
You literally walk side by side, hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So Mila, let's talk outcomes.
All right.
Your favorite
I
thing,
love
my favorite
outcomes.
thing to talk about as well. So we have been talking a little bit about not having a silver bullet solution necessarily, but UMOM has really figured out what I would call a secret sauce to shelter programming and have some really great outcomes. So I would love for you to share a little bit around our success, what that kind of looked like, and how UMOM is well positioned to exit folks to permanent housing.
I think what we do great, and I say great because I see my staff doing this every single day. We focus housing from the minute they come in. What is your housing plan? What does housing look like to you? And we don't talk about anything else. We don't say, what are you eligible for? We just like, let's work on your housing plan. Let's work on your income. Let's get you housed. Let's get you the resources that you need to get that house. So success, we have had 93 women from our Halle Women's Shelter move to their own place less than 50 days.
Wow.
Right? And then we've had 126 families move into their own place with just some little rental assistance, less than 60 days. That is a success. That's what we do great. We know that talking to the families about housing, what does it take for you to get housed? How can we best support you is better than having them stay in shelter and trying to fix everything else. No, let's get you housed. Let's wrap the services that you need, and you can be successful.
And you bring up a really good point around the importance of shelter. I think that the ultimate goal we've talked about is housing, but we have seen and we see on a daily basis that a shelter stay, even short term, is
important.
very critical potentially to the process of getting somebody successfully housed. So the fact that UMOM is there, and to your point, providing maybe a short-term rental assistance or some flexible funds, we can get somebody housed quicker.
Absolutely.
So that it can be rare, brief, and non-recurring.
When a family has a safe place to stay and can really focus on their overall goal, which is housing, they are successful. They're not having to worry about their next meal. They're not having to worry about where their children's going to stay at. They're not having to worry about clothes they have. They have that security for that moment so that they can focus on housing. And that is why we are successful in what we do.
Preach. Scott, can you talk a little bit about a recent win?
Well, I could go on and on about recent wins, because when I hear a win, what I hear is an individual's success. Right. And sometimes that success looks like a key going into their own home. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it looks like getting a job. Sometimes it looks like getting their children back. Yeah. Sometimes it means reuniting with their family in some way. But those individual wins is really what feeds the soul of people who do this work on a daily basis. But as a city, our leadership has taken a great position. We have a great mayor who is very forward-thinking and supportive of what we do. They developed the Office of Homeless Solutions in 2022 so that we could work closely with our partners. And anything we put out, not only do we want to just get the monies out or the programming out, but we want them to produce the intended outcome of that, as you bring up outcomes earlier. And we really wanted to focus on that type of thing so that when we offer something to an individual, we know what we're offering. We know what they're getting. Right. We know what that beginning point looks like, the middle point, and the end looks like. But when you say a win, I just envision someone turning the key to their own place and someone coming back to possibly ask for employment with us. Mm-hmm. A lot of the people, even on my team internally with the City of Phoenix, are people with lived experience of homelessness, substance abuse. And I know UMOM's no different. And it's really great seeing people get to come full circle with that and then get to give back.
Absolutely.
Finally, let's talk about what do we do with this information. Really appreciate both of you being on the segment and talking about everything around homelessness, but people listening, people watching, what would you tell them? What would you share with them? What's sort of the next step or the call to action, Scott?
Yeah, I completely hear and understand the frustration when people talk about homelessness. what they might see every day looking out their window or driving to work. But what I want people to really remember is those of us that are working on a daily basis, when you get in there, you stop seeing the big volume of numbers and you see the individual and the
Yes.
issues that we're trying to
Yeah.
overcome. And those issues aren't easy to overcome. And not always do we have the right solution for them, and we have to make stuff up
Right.
as we go sometimes.
Absolutely.
But just understand that we are putting our best efforts forward. Understand that the norm is someone ending their homelessness. It isn't someone not ending their homelessness. But
Right.
people don't get to see that. We usually
Right.
get to see
Right.
the crisis. We don't get to see the end game where someone has a great life today because of the city's compassion or the neighborhood's compassion to have services in their neighborhood or vote to have things funded to help people. They don't get to see all those successes all the time. Usually they get to see the problems. So I like this opportunity to show and tell people there are more successes than there are losses in the
Yes.
system.
Absolutely.
Yes. Would we ask those who are watching to do anything, to help out, to get involved? Mila, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say that it's important that they understand that shelter is an important part of the system.
Yes.
For families and individuals to have a housing and opportunity, shelter is important. I would say come down, tour UMOM, get to see the work that we're doing, be a part of the solution, be a part of the change that we're making, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
I would like to thank both of you for your time today. Thank you, Mila. Thank you, Scott. Eric.
Thanks, Monique. Well, a big thank you to our host panelists and to our audiences tuning in wherever you are. These conversations will continue to tackle both the pressing community issues surrounding homelessness, as well as the hard work and strides being taken to make our community in the Valley a place where everyone can have the dignity of a safe, stable place to call home. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll, of course, see you next time.
UMOM would like to extend a special thank you to our Diamond Anniversary sponsors, Circle K, Diamond Anniversary sponsor, presenting sponsor of our Rock the Block fundraiser, and presenting sponsor of Campus Beautification Day, Nationwide. Diamond Anniversary sponsor and presenting sponsor of our Signature Gala fundraiser, and Diamond sponsors SRP, APS, and American Roofing and Waterproofing.